Hey people, Shaman Hawk here for Shamanic Lodge. So it's Sunday here in Central Texas. You might hear some roosters, some ducks, and other animals waking up and all that. So it's going to be a sunny day today. Good news, right? Speaking of good news, things are looking up. Happy to see that. Recently Denmark had pushed hard against, laws for lockdowns and mandatory vaccines and all this other stuff. And, finally the government was just like, okay, okay, just kidding. We're not going to do all this stuff. So that was good news. And I'm also seeing it that even in the UK, people are out against the mandatory lockdowns and all this other stuff. It's just, so many people are just pushing back because they're hungry, you know. They have like almost nothing to lose. They see the government, all the people in the government, they're still making their fat paychecks, but yet no one else is allowed to go out and work. They're seeing that the massive hypocrisy about how, or the inconsistencies, how governments, the politicians can make a law, but they don't have to obey. We're also seeing that in the United States. They're seeing how churches and other places like that are um, non-essential and they can't be open, but yet you can go to a bike shop, you can go to a liquor store and buy whiskey, but you can't go to church because you'll kill people. So it's just crazy. It came to me this morning from a very reliable source that, of course, you can't say who your sources are because they get harassed and all that from the left, but about a huge medical facility in Dusseldorf, Germany, that's saying that they haven't had any COVID cases and since this whole thing started. Maybe some suspected one, nothing confirmed, but yet Dusseldorf's going through another big lockdown. So again, when these people are going out in these massive protests, this is one of the things that they're protesting against. Kind of like, what's the truth? And people are, oh no, it's really serious, But people like me who've been through biological warfare training look at what's going on and like, this isn't a pandemic. This isn't serious. Otherwise, you'd be acting very different. Is a good example is when they're saying that we're going to go to this other lockdown after you spend all your money that you don't have on this normal hot shopping day. So of course, it's really understandable why these people are going out and really protesting. And I mean, why wouldn't the government expect this? You got a bunch of people that don't have any money. They're running low on food, and you, the government, are not giving any assistance, but you want to keep these people losing more as you're getting paid. And you're going to think that they're not going to get upset. And some of these politicians better look a little bit on in their history lessons a little bit to see what their possible future could be. So I'm seeing all these things as really positive because for a while I was kind of losing faith. I just couldn't believe how people were just going along with all this. Now in the big agenda, what you read about in Davos, they expected when they pushed down the big pandemic that everyone was expecting. Now, I don't know about you guys. I wasn't expecting any big pandemic. I know we have things that come along, but I wasn't expecting anything. So apparently, these people were been expecting this all along, and they're not too disappointed in this. But, anyways, I was losing faith in this and in the people, but now I'm getting my faith back, and things are looking up. And I really hope this continues. I hope people keep pushing back because again, and it seems like I have to say this every video because it just doesn't seem to register with people. Your government and all the other authorities, including your police departments and everything else, is that much of your country's population. So just 1% of your country's population can rise up and totally null and void the government, the authority, the police, everything else. So yeah. The other thing is still kind of sad to see And I hope this changes because that'd be things of looking up. There was a video in England where they had this really old woman being picked up and carried by the arms and the legs out, being arrested for a peaceful protest. And the people did nothing. And people say, oh, it's an outrage. Oh, it's an outrage. You should be ashamed. Really? I mean, that's as far as you go to see this woman that's in her 80s and you're just going to scream? What does that do? The cops looking at it like, oh, shut up. Because the cops know that you're not going to do anything. Imagine if the cops really were worried about what the crowd was going to do when they did something that disgraceful. Oh, we're just going to pick up this old woman like a stray dog and throw her into this car. Don't worry, the people won't do anything. They're total sheep. Well, what if somebody said, "You that might work in your country, but you better not do that here." Okay, all of us will be in big have a serious issue. We could get injured if we do something like that. Don't do that in front of these people. Imagine if the police had to think like that. Imagine if the governments go, if one, imagine politicians from one country and politicians from another country, and this country's politicians go like, oh yeah, we're doing our second lockdown. We're not letting people work. We're not letting people go out to church. We're not letting people do anything except spend money. And they're only going to spend money where we want them to spend money. Yeah, that's how we control things. Imagine if the other politicians were like, well, you can do that where you live, but if we tried that, nah, we'd be finished. And I don't mean just finished like fired. I mean like, we don't do that to our people. They'll hurt us. No, we're not doing that. I mean, think about that. Which people are going to have the freedom? Okay. And here's the other thing: the young people, and I hope this changes. The younger people who used to be the ones that were quick to demonstrate. Now I'm looking back on the 60s and 70s. And I look at American history in the 60s and 70s. You know, the demonstrations we had stopped the Vietnam War. It really cleaned up the environment. People were really going against the politicians, the big corporate. Like, no, you need to clean up the environment. I mean, it was the young people that were really pushing for things. The activism, the youth, the idealism of youth, were really getting some positive things done. Well, they were doing that because they were pushing against the system, right? But what I'm seeing now is everybody in the universities are really going along with the system. See, it's easy to be weak. It's really easy to be weak because all you have to do is just go along with the crowd. I don't want to push back. No, I just want to go. I don't want to be rejected. People are more worried about their rejection from Facebook or whatever instead of actual activism. The Antifa were acting like fascists. Okay. So it was really nice to see some of them get pounded. I like that. But so I'm seeing more in my country and then throughout the other countries for limited videos that we can get because the censorship is just outrageous these days. But people are pushing back. They're pushing back against the fascist Antifa. They're pushing against the fascist oppression of the people by these governments. So I'm really happy about this. I just wish I'd see more of it because here's the other thing: people get really patient and complicit, and then they run out of more money. Then they have no other choice but to obey the government so they can get their food, unless they want to go take it. And see, when you get to the gets to that point, then it gets really dangerous for the government, for the people initially, but then because some of the troops will get scared and shoot in or whatever, and then the people have to override that. But meanwhile, the people who start all this are safe in their mansions with private security and everything else. So I'm happy to see these people pushing back. I'd love to see more of it. I'm seeing more people leave, like Facebook, Fox, all this, going to these alternate platforms. You know, I'm learning a little bit more about BitChute, um, YouTube. I mean, if this video gets seen, that'd be a miracle. I know I'm on shadow ban. Almost nobody really sees my stuff anymore on Facebook or YouTube, but I thought I'd try this. And speaking of which, if you like any of my videos, please go through them. Even if you only go through them and just hit the like button, just hit all the like buttons. And let's see if it's really true that that can push the algorithms up to where my stuff is out there a little bit more. Because we really want to share all of our stuff, because I don't get any money off YouTube. I'm doing this as a community service because I have dreams of continuing to live freely like I've been doing most of my life. I would love to see my grandchildren enjoy a free life. I would love them to be able to travel around and meet other free people instead of everybody being just mindless drones just walking around looking at the sidewalk. So that's part of what I want to see. But this is a team sport. So all of us have to participate in this if we want to do that. Unless you guys are real okay with just being told what to do in every aspect of your life, kind of like the Chinese do. They like that. But in fairness, they probably don't know there's any other way because they have such severe censorship. And I really think that's what the target is for us, what's left of the free world. Because when you look at it, Zuckerberg and the crew, I mean, he's learning Chinese. He got a Chinese wife. He might really like that whole lifestyle, and being another. I just don't see these guys. I guess when they make that much money, it just automatically feel they have the right to run everybody else's life. Well, I like running my life. And I'm really happy, like I said, when I look at the UK, Denmark, Iceland's always been one of my heroes, all the way back to the last economic fail in 2008 when they fired their politicians, rewrote their constitution online, and totally went around. I mean, Iceland was facing sanctions from the United States and from the UK, from the United Nations, because they would not take bailouts and become slaves to the IMF, or International Monetary Fund, the World Bank. And Iceland's like, no, we're not doing that. So they're always my heroes, in that way. And that just shows they did that. They all pulled together and they did their stuff online. They didn't have to get out, deal with the police or anything. They just bombarded everything and they came together online and did that. Anybody else can do it. That would be just great. If we just, I mean, there's a part of this where the globalism, will happen to an extent, because just like small tribes banded together and became territories, territories had these major cities. And I mean, that's what you really had before you actually had countries, is you had cities. And then their empire or their defense mechanism expanded over a region, and that could become a country. So now, I mean, because of social media, the communications, world travel, what's left of it, yeah, we are becoming more of a tighter global community. And that's one of the reasons that you can have a pandemic, if it's a real pandemic, it can travel globally so fast because of things like air travel and such. By the time you realize what's happening, it's already, halfway around the world. That's part of the globalism. The globalists want the like centralized global government, and they want to just control everything all over the world that has absolutely nothing to do with them, because in their small mind frame they think that because they think this here, somebody 20,000 miles away should be doing the same thing. And that's just, no, I don't want to participate in that. So we can be a global community, but we all can have our individual cultures. And that's where I think there's a real nice thing about nationalism, in a way, as long as it doesn't fall into fascism and communism, socialism. But you can be proud of your culture. But we see the left, well, actually, only white people can be ashamed of their culture. Everybody else is proud of theirs. But yeah, you can have. So we will have this global community. I'm happy to see that things are looking up with that. Where you're starting to see more global unity about issues, especially with the environment. That's a global issue. The corporations are polluting things globally. That's a global issue. So coming together like that is a good thing in a global community mentality, not a globalist mentality. So and with these things, we have to remember that small degrees of change at one point make a completely different destination over a longer stretch of time. The good example they teach you in flight school is 1 degree over 1 mile is 90 feet. So you're a mile away from the airport and you're 1 degree off, you could miss the runway. 5 miles, you're onto the other runway, or you might have even missed the airport. 50 miles, you'll miss the town. See, so that's where we have to be focused. So if we want things to really look up, and our future to be a little bit brighter, we have to focus on the degrees of our course. And so, meaning that, people have a tendency to go, oh, yeah, well, this is happening. Yeah, we got the motion going, we're making big changes. And then they just walk away. And it's real easy for somebody else to come in and hijack a movement and just make that little bit of a degree change and take it to a completely different destination that can serve the globalist agenda, can serve a corporate agenda, but it won't really serve the global community. So this is where people really need to be more focused on their goals. So let's do that. Let's really be focused on the global community agenda, meaning that all of us should be able to live in a healthy, prosperous environment. Now, all of us should be part of a sustainable program. But right now, what's happening is we just hear the politicians going, "Oh yeah, we're going to be working in sustainably." And everybody goes, "Okay," and then walks away. And meanwhile, these same government people, these politicians, just change it a couple degrees. Now they go back into the corporate lobbyist. Now they go back into the lobbyist for the different fossil fuel industries. Look at Obama's Solandra, green energy thing. It was a total scam. Lots of money went just down and disappeared after that. And that's what happens when the people don't maintain the true focus of the right degree and the course that they want to take to get to the destination of their future. So this is so important. And right now, again, while I'm really happy to see that the people are rising up and protesting against the lockdowns, I'm really encouraging people, don't lose track. Don't take your eyes off your course. Don't take your eyes off your destination, because your movement will get hijacked. And they just say they'll give you this little bit to lead you over here away from where you want to go. And so don't be distracted like that. But the other part, and the reason I share these videos of like what's happening in Denmark, or what happened or happening now in the UK, is to places like, my second home basically is Romania. I love it there. And it seems like those people just gave up. They're into their other lockdown. The last peaceful protest they did, the Romanian people were just kind of holding their hands up, getting beaten up by police. And the police, the people protested against the bad treatment they were getting at a peaceful protest. So the government's response was hire 300 more police. So again, and what they did, and sorry, Romania, it was your fault for taking your eyes off of the focus. So anytime you're doing this kind of a protest and things like that, you have to have a clear plan. When in the United States, when they did the Occupy movement, at first I was like, well, that's kind of nice. The kids are getting up, protesting against corporate abuses and environmental blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, cool. And then I heard one of the alleged leaders or spokespeople saying, well, we really don't have a leader and we really don't have a plan or a goal. We're just here. And like, oh my God, you're a boat with no rudder. You're an airplane with no pilot. It's going to crash and burn. And it did. The only thing that happened from that was more laws were passed against kinds of protests and things. And but anyway, so it's up to us. It really is up to us. So it would be even more encouraging if I saw people really keeping a very clear focus. Again, like in Iceland, they were real clear on what to do with the government. So every government has petitions. Every government has a procedure in which must be followed. A citizen has a right to file for something, and if it's not filed, it has to be answered in a way. So, like in the United States here, if you file certain motions, they have to be answered, and if it's not answered, then the government's in trouble, and it just starts to domino against them. And the other part is, bombarding, the politician's office with phone calls, emails, letters, regular old letters, the old time you put in the post box and send. Go back to that and just flood the post office, flood the politician's office with letters, and just make people take the time to deal with it. Because if you don't, you lose more money. There's less food. I mean, think about it. These are the same people and mentality that don't want you to work, don't want you to make money, and they're going to tell you where you can spend what little money you have. Don't think they won't interrupt food shipments. Okay, and that's just the truth about it. I mean, a little bit of history tells you what politicians can do. So, but I'm starting to, like I said, feel a little bit more positive about things, about what people are doing. And things are looking up for me when I'm seeing people being more resourceful about how they share the videos and information. So one of the things that's really nice to see is when people see a video on YouTube that they like and they know it's going to disappear. The old method was to just share the video and go, well, watch it before it gets deleted. The new method is take your phone and you put it in front of your laptop and you record it. See, it has a completely different signature. Now you can go ahead and upload it on your YouTube. You can send it to people. You can post it. And that other person can go ahead and record it from them, and then they can do it. And that's one of the best ways to beat the censorship, process. And so more people are doing that. So this is nice because people are becoming a little bit more involved in it, and that's what we really need. Because all the people in the government, they're involved in that plan. They're participating in that agenda against us. So it's nice to see when people are participating in the resistance. Again, like I said, Iceland's my hero, and I'm really, really, if they have any kind of protests and things like that, I've suggested it here in the Central Texas area, but I'm not hearing anything rise up. So if I do, I'll go out and participate, just to show my support with it. Anyways, like I said, if you like this, share it. Who knows? It might just get lost in YouTube censorship land, but give a like, subscribe. Till then, I'll catch you guys later.